once again welcome back to the stage our moderator, Sara Essa, presenter, broadcaster and founder, Women in Sport MENA and Padel Collective. Welcome back on stage, Sara. And with us, joining on the panel discussion will be Mohammed Yaseen, founder, Esports and Gaming Association UAE. Vikas Goel, founder and chief executive officer of EsportsXO. And Vlad Belyanin, co-founder and chief product officer of True Games. Please welcome back on stage, guys. The stage is yours. Enjoy, everyone. This one's going to be a good one.
Thank you so much, Georgina. Well, welcome back. I am back for a second panel and I'm very excited for this one to discuss a more localized approach to esports and gaming. So starting with you, Mohammed, the UAE has taken a structured approach to esports ecosystem building. From your perspective, what policy and regulatory decisions have had the biggest impact on accelerating growth?
First of all, I want to thank you for moderation and, of course, the team at the global dev team to creating this event. I think the first thing I'd like to start with is that going back a bit behind, actually, just taking it a little bit back in time, I think setting the foundation has been the most important part. The UAE has always been known in creating a plan and planning for years to come, right? Like in a decade plan. For example, we have in Dubai Program for Gaming, which is something under the Crown Prince, His Highness Sheikh Hamdan bin Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, where they set a 10-year plan in creating 30,000 jobs in gaming. And that ranges not just in esports, game development, talent, developers, and the whole ecosystem of creators in that. And then also having, let's say, the GDP contribute $1 billion of GDP from the gaming sector to Dubai's economy. Same with Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi has grown with Abu Dhabi Gaming, where they have companies like Ubisoft and other local game talent. When it comes to esports, I think the biggest factor is that there has already been a community. There's many tournaments that do happen, and you see them from a federation's perspective, the Emirates Federation, but then you also see them from free zone perspectives, and then you see them from private companies, and even, for example, sectors like True Gamers, for example, where there's gaming avenues where people host them. So the important part where I'm trying to get out is community. That's where it's been growing. Year to year, I think we've seen an increase in activations in gaming, both in competitive esports and in creators style. Before, we used to have 1 or 2 events, and that kind of just led us in, and you have to wait. But now we're seeing the in-betweens, which is more important, in my opinion, in building momentum. So it comes from private and government collaboration, creating the communities where it already exists there. There's a huge market of gaming players in the UAE. Many that might not know, but the UAE has the highest GDP spending per capita for gaming, actually. It's the UAE. So it's already there, and I think the collaboration from the federation, the collaboration from government sectors, having these initiatives as an actual thing, because not many countries actually do this. UAE, Saudi, Qatar now, one of the few countries in the world where they actually have a proper initiative, long year plan to doing it.
Very interesting. And I didn't know that stat either, that the UAE has the highest per capita spending. And I've noticed a lot of new events popping up where, like e-racing, for example, they've all built their community online, they know each other's names, and then they meet in person at these real life events where we're having e-racing in real life. Coming over to you as the co-founder and chief product officer of True Gamers. True Gamers has been instrumental in building physical gaming spaces in the region. How do world-class esports arenas and gaming venues contribute to the UAE's global positioning?
Hello. Yeah, thank you for invite. Interesting question. No, at first we expats and coming to UAE before, then in this region make it a esports and gaming boom. Before trillions, billions dollars from Saudi to gaming industry. Yeah, and our main focus, what we do before in another region, it's make it like a trampoline between gaming and esports. It's more about casual. And how it's work at this moment. Inside the UAE, we make it cross Emirati tournaments. But in 2026, because our branches under preparing, Amani, Saudi, coming to our program. We started cross countries tournaments, and all now it where is the stay main company? Main company stay inside the UE, and all our patient and facts stay here. Our next step, because we have a big part what we do for construction work at this moment in Europe. Yeah. Next point, whereas we make it our finally parts of cups and championships, because you it's super comfortable. Comfortable for visas, comfortable for traveling. It's a big hub. Yeah. And main thing, I'm not Arabic speaker, but I know it, I'm sure it, because I check all numbers at this moment through gamers in English language. Yeah, in the MENA region, inside the UE, it's a brand number 2. Yeah, because we have many products what stay, and all now it we stay inside the UE. Thank you.
Absolutely. I'm a proud resident of the UAE as well, and we're welcoming 17,000 new residents per month at the moment. And we can feel it on the roads, can't we? But community and diversity is definitely growing too, which makes this country such a beautiful place to live. Vikas, bringing you into the conversation, Vlad briefly mentioned around like competitions and tournaments. As a tournament organizer working across multiple markets, what makes the UAE uniquely attractive for hosting large-scale esports tournaments compared to, say, India or SEA?
Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Sara and Global Games Show, to invite me here. So, so what Vlad and so said about the gaming industry flourishing in UAE, there are 3 specific reasons why it does. One being is the ready-made infrastructure, which is plug and play. So, back in India or elsewhere in SEA, more South Asia, you need to hustle a lot to get the ready infrastructure, the spaces, the bandwidth, and the other physical ecosystem. It's not very easy to get. But in UA, it's quite easy. So it makes easier for brands who are putting money, and also for companies like us to manage such tournaments. That is one. There is a ready-made audience here which consumes a lot of gaming content and likes to play a lot of esport tournaments. That's a plus, which otherwise is very hard. Of course, India has a big audience, but it's very hard to distribute a game or get those audience to play the game. So that is the second one. And 3, there's a gaming economy here. People are buying tickets, they're spending money on gaming or for content a lot. So these are 3 missing pieces which I feel is very good in UAE, or for that matter, whole of the Middle East. So these are things which are very important for us as an organizer here in UAE. Plus, over the other things aside, they have they're very accustomed or very comfortable using technology. So we're building the infrastructure for all these organizations. So we've seen a good acceptance by the user. So these are the 4 things I think is a missing piece.
And just coming back to you, Vlad, in terms of venues, from a product and UX standpoint, what features do players expect inside these modern esports venues, and how does your team integrate those insights?
We don't make it innovation for innovation. Our main point, customers before stay at home, see some streamers or cups or tournaments in YouTube or Twitch, and this is part of emotion. Yeah, and what they want, what they do, it's make it same emotion. Yeah, in physical places. After that, they have a few roads. They may started play online. Yeah, make it a small boot camp in some villas, or coming to a gaming venue. And we always tried inside the gaming hub, make it a same place, same devices like keyboards or mouse pads, what they do, what they check in camera onlines.
And Mohammed, coming back over to you, in terms of international tournaments coming over here to the UAE as a host location. What do publishers and tournament operators prioritize when selecting this market?
I think the biggest key takeaway is that it's the user experience, right? The consumer. If I'm bringing such an IP here, what does that mean? We did recently have a partnership in AD Gaming. They had Blast Premier, which is a very world-renowned Counter-Strike tournament. And so I think the user experience, what is it that gets people activated to engage in those events? It's not just coming in to watch a competitive game. It's all the things that happen in the venue, in arena sort of activations, whether it's from partnerships of companies, private, and then also sort of familiarizing, let's say, the talent that are there to play, right? You know, that's one of the big factors why traditional sports works, is that there is sort of a element of fandom to the players. So I think that's most likely is like looking at it, where does the consumer fit? Where does the person who wants to buy the ticket to this event, how is it enjoyable from them? So that's the takeaway. I think one example I can give, where it's not exactly a international tournament, but under Esports and Gaming Association, we are the representative of Twitch in the region. So any Twitch event in the UAE is held under us. And the first thing for us was, okay, this is an event that's more catered towards the Twitch streamers, right? And it's an opportunity for them to grow, and we're trying to raise the awareness of Twitch, raise the awareness of Twitch streamers in the region. But it's important to also get that sort of fandom out there of like, there are people who love watching streamers outside our region, but they don't necessarily know the people in the region. So getting them accustomed. So making sure that such an event isn't just catering towards a streamer. It's also catering towards the person who loves gaming in general, loves content creation in general, all that thing that they do. Because the only difference between a streamer and a gamer is one of them streams and one of them doesn't. So always looking at it from a consumer standpoint, am I going to enjoy it?
And what have you found in terms of increasing numbers on Twitch since you've been activating to try and raise awareness? Like, have you seen an uptick in numbers significantly? Have you got any data you can share with us?
I can't speak more on the data, but I will say the awareness has definitely been there. And some of this is, I remember we talked even just before the panel on, and excuse me if I add in a question from now, but something on government perspective, right? Like, where does the government come into play in this? So, for example, with the Twitch event, we partnered with Creators HQ, and they are an entity in Dubai where they also are in part building the 1 billion followers summit. And so, for example, for us, it makes sense to partner with these initiatives that are already there. Makes it easier for us. So the way that we've seen the awareness grown is that you're bringing in an IP that's already known. Twitch is already a known platform for live streaming, but you're enhancing it with an initiative that is supposed to promote content creation and creator economy, right? So it's not necessarily the awareness just for the people who are into gaming or into streaming. It's also the awareness for the brands who are maybe not familiar with this new sort of platform that's out here, and just activating those brands to now come in and do campaigns, their own activations. So that awareness we've seen since that first event. We've done it in October, and then since October, we're planning something now. Next year, we're already looking at stuff coming up. We've already seen approach from different companies, private, whether they're gaming tournament entity-based organizers, whether they're just sort of brands or sponsors who now want to engage because there is sort of an identity, right? There is the Twitch, you have the YouTube, you have Facebook, you have TikTok, all of those, but now Twitch is in the play. And so we've seen already the awareness, maybe not in data, but we've seen companies and brands want to approach, how can we work with Twitch streamers in the UAE now?
And you've really touched on the sort of collaboration and building gaming out in the UAE. I'm just going to jump back a little bit. Vikas, what operational or logistical advantages have you noticed in the UAE that help streamline tournament execution, from infrastructure to partnerships to audience turnout?
So logistically, of course, the infrastructure is one play that we really feel UAE is excellent in. In UAE, esports, like he's rightly saying, that it's a national policy now. It's in their mandate. They have to promote gaming. It doesn't just bring in the money from the game developers and the users, but also gives tourism a little hike. We've seen a lot of big events happening here, and you will see big events happening in the future. So that is one of the things. They're keeping the logistics very open to an idea of opening, or probably having a stadium event, pretty much like how you have for soccer and the other events. So it's a national policy here. It's no more about gaming industry anymore. Two, we also, by the way, we are also, one of the incubated startups with AD Gaming, and they really support a lot. And when we talk to them, they care about the youth in the country. Do they have programs for them, whether it is coaching, whether it is becoming a professional in the gaming systems, not only for playing but also for incubating good game developers. So for us, it's also a mandate. If you're a startup operating in UAE, having the proper technology in place is one of the key mandates for everybody, even for us. So I think that is another thing which is pretty big in the UAE, also for Saudi and the other markets. And three, there are systems in place which kinds of supports events and tournaments, which goes beyond the, let's say, the sponsorships or beyond the money given by the government as a grant. The brands, they understand the value that any esports tournament or a like his infrastructure will bring into the economy. They understand the longer goal. So the brands, they kind of sync their goals along with the government goals, and they kind of support it. So they've even have created value for themselves in the process. For example, Etisalat is one of the clients that we work with, and their infrastructure is actually built on our engine. And when we talk to them, their plans is actually over 5 years. We've signed a contract for 6 years with them. So we understand they have this long-term visibility, which is very difficult with other clients of mine that I've worked with. So I think these are three things which overall works in the logistical fashion, plus also gives a reason to believe that if it doesn't exist today, it will exist tomorrow.
Absolutely. And talking of existing tomorrow, what innovations, Vlad, in venue technology in terms of AI, automation, streaming integration will define the next generation of esports spaces within the UAE?
No, same like my previous mind. We don't do innovation for innovation. Yeah, but gaming and esports, it's to another part. Yeah, what we do inside and how it's work. In True Gamers, if we speak about big branches, you may check all from the classic PC gaming to VR or Yaseen products. For us, main points, it's for example for the parents. Yes, if you speak like parents as our customers, because they have a coming with the kids, it's a priority innovation. It's all must be stay under parents' control, like in our mobile application, where the parents may control what his kid eat, play, drink, something like that. For classic customers, it's super fast UI, UX, and this road to first step in venue, yeah, and coming to first emotion, first game, competitive for a classic game.
And you touched on partnerships a little bit there, Vikas. Just coming back to that point, because I think that's quite interesting. Esports monetization has been a challenge globally and remains a challenge. Based on your experience, which monetization avenues show the strongest potential in the UAE market?
Okay, I mean, this, first of all industries, when they start off, whether it's gaming, esports, they go through a process, okay? And esports is a newfound concept. Competitive video gaming is esports, right? So it will go through its own channels and become a major revenue source. But in my experience of what I've worked with most of the brands and the technology that we're building, there are 4 main areas for esports only, esports, where they can make money. Of course, one is the sponsored tournaments, which covers some bit of a cost, and maybe upwards about 3 to 5% you can make if you're an organizer. If you're a big organizer, probably maximum about 8 to 10%. This is what I feel. 2, there's a lot of content which goes around, which is monetizable in different ways, whether it's Web 2, Web 3, whichever kind of tournament that you're organizing. And for an organizer or a game publisher, that's a proprietary content, monetizable at scale. And the creators also can run a lot of narratives around the esports and bring in their own, fair share of money for them as well as for the IPs. Now, when I talk about the IPs, there are a lot of longer IPs. For example, EWC in KSA, they are yearly, annual IPs. The spends are over about $200 million. That's a lot of money riding it. That's not only sponsored money, that's also ticket sales. There's also merch sales. There's also a rev share from the, let's say, sponsor. Plus, there are also very performance-driven, campaigns wherein, for an example, a hardware company would be selling at a certain cost, discounted on EWC only. So there are interchange income also opportunities. And finally, I'd like to refer back to your question you were asking, Vlad. I think AI is going to change a lot of things in the future. One, the cost may shrink because of AI. Okay, you'll with a lot of tech and a lot of AI in the gaming, you'll reduce the cost of managing such tournaments. You don't have to be physically there. The game publishers like the idea of reducing the cost, of course, and that increases the profit maybe. So this is what my assumption is, and that is going to bring in a lot of new sources of revenue, whether it's driven by ad tech, merch sale, or ticket sale. But you also see, new IPs being built using AI with a fraction of cost. So may not be increasing the revenue, but it'll increase the profit margin from, let's say, 10% to over 30, 40%. So this is what I feel.
Can I just add to that, actually? I think because the question was, how are the challenges being faced here in the UAE? But the esports challenge is worldwide, actually. Esports is known as one of the sectors in gaming where it is still in its early terms, right? So I would extend it to worldwide. The things that I think the companies face is, of course, unlike traditional esports or traditional sports, esports don't have such streaming rights or cable, let's say, rights, right? For example, when you look at Sky Sports, which basically plays the Premier League games, right? Premier League gets maybe billions of dollars for Sky Sports to have the right to host those games. Now, the Premier League, which is, let's say, the federation for that specific top championship in England, that is the sort of premier in the name league, that money does get trickled in to the teams who play in that league. No such avenue right now exists in esports where a streaming right or a cable channel is paying a tier 1 esports tournament money, and then that IP and that money is trickling down to the teams playing in that tournament or that specific game. So that's already an avenue of income that does not come into esports. Where they have to make up for it is, as you mentioned, sponsors. They have to make up with it in merch sales. But how do you build that? The way to build that is also the player needs to be a little bit of a personality, right? Why do we attach ourselves to someone like Messi or Ronaldo or for example, Michael Jordan? There is that, again, goes back to that thing, that fandom, right? So with esports talent, very few companies also do this very well. There's companies that are like 100 Thieves, companies like Optic Gaming, where people attach themselves to those players, or Team Falcons in Saudi, they are very passionate, they're fans, right? And that accounts for the merch sales, that accounts for the meet and greets, that accounts for the reason why brands and sort of commercial deals come through for their merchandise, for their deals, whether it's in F&B, automobiles, or whatever it is, hardware. So that aspect also still being built. So it's not a challenge that how is UAE going to do? It's still a worldwide challenge that nobody in the world is figuring out. Very few teams have managed to transform their players from sort of just a player who's competitive to a personality or a lifestyle. And that is still something that will take time to grow. And I think when it comes to the rights, the streaming rights, the day that we actually are getting streaming rights for tier 1 tournaments, where that money is also being trickled into the teams competing in those tournaments, that, in my opinion, will change things. And AI is a definite thing that you mentioned as well there. Because of AI, I've organized tournaments myself as a player, as a streamer. I know what it is to take to organize a tournament. There's a lot of headache. You have 100 participants or 200 participants, and then you have 40 people adminning from all sorts of things. AI probably will remove a lot of that, where even players who are doing independent run competitive tournaments will make it easier in the future.
And how are esports and gaming association UAE, how are you supporting talent pathways and player development, and what gaps still exist?
So I think that to go with the gaps that exist, I think right now it's sort of establishing the not the creator economy, but the creator economy in gaming, right? The UAE has a huge precedent now in being a leading creator economy sector in the world, including in edutainment, which is a mix of education and entertainment creators, which is something they push a lot because that is actually a beneficial sector. With gaming, also there is a lot of benefits. It comes with the coordination of running a game, tournament, and as a player, you have to build your kind of like your own personality brand. So the gaps, I think, is getting that bit more mainstream. And I think where UAE is at in terms of gaming creators is where North America and Europe were at in 2016, 17. We're seeing the shift into more people wanting to get into tap in the creator economy, specifically in gaming. So it's happening there with initiatives. I mean, through us being a Twitch official representative in the UAE, because of that, I mean, we've sort of become an intermediary for Twitch, and now Twitch is a sponsor for 1 Billion Followers Summit. So that's going to create the opportunities and those gaps. So they will come in with those kind of opportunities, and it goes back to what I mentioned. There were less events throughout the year. Now there's many more events, more visibility, more awareness for people to propel themselves in. And we're doing that in our sense, where we're trying to throw in and get in the Twitch creators and any other influencers in campaigns. Companies like True Gamers, for example, do very well where they host their tournaments and they invite anyone. It's not just a specific influencer, general public can play, but from there, streamers get an opportunity or influencers get an opportunity to work with a company that's hosting something, and they're able to get themselves out there as well. So it will come in with those kind of small scale events that can kind of bridge the gap with the large events that happen in the year.
Very exciting times to come. Ladies and gentlemen, if you do have any questions, do raise your hand and we'll get a mic out to you. But just for now, Vikas, how should ecosystem players, like Mohammed was saying, foster a stronger pipeline between amateur tournaments and professional circuits to retain long-term player interest?
Very good question, Sarah. So, back in India, there is a lot of dearth of talent wanting to become professional players. They're amateur players. And same as in UAE. I feel there are no clear defined path for even amateur or newbie, or we call it noobs in gaming, this is to become professional players. So I think that is the need of the hour, because having some local tournaments, let's say even by True Gamers or by the association, will define a lot of things for them. They need to be confident that by playing certain games or certain tournaments, even local tournaments, they'll get to a stage where they can become professional. There's no incentive attached to it. Vlad touched upon the parents being the gatekeepers. So a lot of coaching needs to happen. The academies will have to be built wherein not only the gamers, but also the parents have to be taught that there is a way to play safe gaming. There's a way to become a professional in gaming. Even if you're not playing, you become something like a tournament organizer or somebody in tech. So I think these are the three things I feel is definitely going to add up to make even parents more confident, while the gamers are always excited to play games and become a pro.
And just building on that a little bit, Vlad, how do you see the role of physical esports hubs evolving with the rise of mobile esports hubs, hybrid tournaments, and virtual experiences?
No, at first, professional esports parts already coming and stay inside the UE. In previous years, Blast stay here. It's a CS two-part. What we check inside the True Gamers, it's teams who coming to boot camps. Yes, for this region challenges. They coming and rented boot camps for playing. Why they come? No, some teams who make it a qualification before Saudi ESVC, same coming to Dubai and making boot camps with us, same too. It's many teams. Why? Because we already make it a big brand. It's a super big brand, and it works same like that. Another point, we have a big research for team host bases. No, it must be work with some separate businesses with advertisement and hosting inside. Because main point for tier 1 teams for hosted, it's a money, yeah, because it must be stay inside the PNL, it must be stay comfortable. And next main point, it's internet, it's a ping for practice. In previous year, stay in Jordan inside the Aqaba with a new data center with good internet cable, yeah, and I'm sure 1, 2, 3 years and ping with Europe, ping with part of the Asia, stay be better, and many teams and for a practice, for a boot camps, for another part of the year may coming and play. Or another point, because we have big research, what I said before, if by one time inside the UE make it a boot camp for 5-10 teams, tier 1 esports teams, it's comfortable for them. We have dialogue before, and it may make it like a show matches, it may make it for tourism parts too, yeah. I think 2 years, maybe 3 years, 4 years, yes, and esports in gaming penetration make it a new step.
And just before we start looking a bit more into the future, does anyone have any questions for any of our panelists in the audience? You can just raise your hand. We have one here. If we can get the mic over. Just coming to you, Mohammed, before we come to this question, looking ahead to 2026, well, between 2026 and 2028, what strategic steps must the UAE take to remain competitive with markets such as Korea, China, and Saudi Arabia?
I think staying the course, honestly, because UAE, I mentioned before earlier on the panel, it already sets sort of plans ahead, right? UAE hasn't been about let's go into this and put all this money into this, and that works in some cases, but UAE's always been strategically planning. In any sector you look at here in our country, it's always been putting a foundation first and building throughout. So I think they stay the course, and of course every single year has been a learning experience. There might have been things that didn't work, some things that did, and so they just figure out the things that did and focus more on those, right? And then the ones that didn't work, figure out why those didn't work, maybe if it's not possible. So I think staying the course is more important. The things that I would like to see, at least from my side, is we have already support in terms of game development events, right? We see that with Abu Dhabi Gaming, with workshops that they do to help build the next generation of game developers. Building out a game from our part of the world is a huge step, a huge milestone. So I think those are already beneficial. And I might be a little bit biased in saying this, of course, the creator economy as a creator, but then also a consultant now who's working with creators. I do think putting out more campaigns or spotlights that can allow creators to kind of get a sort of thing to think, something to sink their teeth into. One thing that I do like is, for example, AD Gaming does this, and I'll just use this example because it's very recent in my head. They did a panel on women in gaming, actually, and they do this twice a year, roughly. And it's about women in gaming, their experiences as creators in gaming in general, right? So what I'm looking at is like more segmented sort of events where they're actually more specific on something. So for example, if there's an event on content creation, for example, how to start as a streamer, right? Maybe not necessarily Twitch or YouTube, whatever it is you want to start, but how to start. Educational workshops that are more catered towards content creator initiatives, because being a content creator is not easy. You are a marketing department, you are a business department, you are everything put together, and you need to understand how to sell personality as well, right? And how to be PR trained. That's also most important part of it, is the PR training. So those segmented workshops, in my opinion, is going to be one of the key factors. And something we've seen in some schools is they already run esports tournaments. They already run a sort of competitive tournament style for I think kids who are ages from certain grades and over. So I think having more of those become a thing. I remember when I was in school, for me, the big thing was playing football. And playing football across different schools. Now it's esports, playing esports across different schools. And that builds into getting people into gaming, but then also importantly, with the right approach. Because anything in excess, in my opinion, can be very detrimental. So I do think gaming is great. I am a gamer, but I do know that there are certain times where you shouldn't be playing 10 hours a day or 8 hours a day. I think we've all been through them as a kid if you play the game on a console or PC. So making sure people are being educated, and especially young kids. In my opinion, I still believe that there needs to be a mix and balance. So more segmented workshops, more sort of driven sort of initiatives with schools who are already working on this to making it more safe.
Yeah, I love that. And that was brought up earlier on as well in one of the panels. Coming to you, if you could share your name and who the question is directed to.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys, for this fascinating conversation. I just wanted to ask, Mohammed already mentioned this topic about women in gaming. Maybe like some of you, like some trends or something, maybe you see something in your clubs, maybe there is more and more women in gaming, or that's the same. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mohammed, perhaps you could share one of the key takeaways from the panel discussion that you mentioned. I'm assuming you attended this year.
It was actually just for women to attend.
Oh.
It was purely a women's only event. But it was I know some of the creators there. They're amazing creators and influencers. The takeaway for that panel was how to figure out ways to uplift women in the gaming sector. Because a lot of times, yes, women are overlooked in many sectors, but in gaming especially. But then you have such people who, for example, some of the best streamers in the world right now are women. Right now, actually, in terms of content creation, they're beating all the other guys by numbers, and they're actually really good at gaming. They can beat them in games. So I think where it's more campaigns that can kind of tap into what women resonate. Because just as much as I get excited about an unboxing for a sponsored item or sponsor giving me something to unbox. The same thing is something that my friend might have. She might also like even better. And they're more creative. In my opinion, women are more creative when it comes to these videos than men. I'll be honest with that. So the focus is finding ways where they should always be in the conversation. It shouldn't be three guys and, okay, we need a diversity, so we need to have a woman. It should always be by metric. So if there's three women who are better, three women and one guy. It has to be balanced out.
I think that balance is really, really important. And what do you think about having these sort of women in gaming conversations, but with men in the room, decision makers, to ensure inclusion? Perhaps I could come to you, Vikas, if you have any thoughts on that.
So, by the way, I heard about that panel. So, I can give you
gone?
Yeah. I can give you some data. So, so we did a basic secondary research, and we feel that upwards about 20% of the total gamers across Middle East, South Asia and Southeast Asia are women. And the best creators, if I talk about the top ones, the top 1% of them, at least 30 to 35% of them are women, and they're making equal money. Whether it is streaming, whether their skill, whether their capability of taking an IP to the next level. So I think they're really doing great. Of course, when it comes to decision making, sadly, it has not gone to that level where they can call the shots. But I'm sure that is not far away. It will happen either tomorrow or day after. But that's bound to happen because they have more equal access to internet games or the kind of games that are built. I think the game developers and the publishers have understood this, and they are making such IPs themselves. So when the publishers are understood, the organizers will have to understand at some point in time, and so does the association and the rest of the world. So I think if it has not happened today, it's not very far off.
Thank you so much. And just to close out this fascinating conversation, I'd like to ask you both for one thing that you think the UAE has done extremely well over the past few years, and one thing that you think we need to really nail down and focus on to ensure that the UAE stays as a global hub for esports. Starting with you, Vlad. Could you hear the question?
No, at first, best way what I say before is this is point of internet and global connection with connect with another hubs. It's a part of the technology. Yeah. Next point, I think it's trying make it something interesting and new. Main problem inside the esports at this moment, it's all sponsorships, it's a betting. More than 90% of cups, tournaments, challenges, teams, it's a betting sponsor. And it's no impossible stay for next 5 or 10 years. Always this thing changed. And I think UAE must be stay and be the first steps who changed this.
Thank you so much. And what about you, Vikas? One thing we've done well and one thing that it was going to really help in the future.
Okay, now I feel I'm part of UAE now, so I'll say one thing that we've done very well is the infrastructure is readily available. It's not the case in India or elsewhere in the world. We struggle a lot. So you have good spaces like these, which is ready-made, which is ready for use. And one thing which I think should change is it could be less process driven. It takes a lot of time on certain things. And I think that's more of the nature how the whole of the Middle East is. But I think we're getting there. But that is something, if I had the power, I would like to change.
And over to you, Mohammed, to close us out.
I'll start with the change and then end with the good. So I think that the thing that I think they should definitely work more is on the pivots. They do that very well. However, with the pace that we're going in the world right now, learning how to pivot fast is going to be important. The thing that UAE does very well is they've always been an enabler and making sure that people are at the forefront. How can we work better to benefit the other entities, the private sector, consumer? So in terms of other places, I don't think anyone does it better than UAE in enabling us to do the things we want to do.
Well, there we go. Pivoting, something new. And I'm trying to remember, yours was processes, less processes. Well, there we have it. There is the discussion on UAE becoming already a global hub, but continuing to be a global hub for esports internationally. Well, please put your hands together one more time for Vikas, Vlad and Mohammed.